Hello ladies and gentlemen, in this video I'm going to be showing you the entire process of us turning a cold email into an actual cash collected paid upfront client. This is the real sauce. We've never shown something like this online before. I'm literally exposing the entire process in my agency. I'm going to be showing you the entire cold email sequence that we ran in order to find this client. I'm going to be showing you the objection handling. I'm going to be showing you the process of getting them booked into a call. I'm going to show you the actual sales call. And yes, I mean the actual real call with the person. It's like 40 minutes long. You're going to see the real call. You're going to see us sending over the contract. You're going to see us collecting the cash. And you're going to see us scheduling our onboarding. Okay, you're going to see the entire process of my agency acquiring a client. Okay, and I'm going to give everybody the proof right here so you know that I'm not making this stuff up. This is a picture of our Stripe. We collected the setup fee in full. For those of you who know, I run a paper qualified call agency, meaning there's a setup fee and then we also have a performance fee. That performance fee obviously hasn't been collected because we haven't started the service, but as you can see, the money has been collected for the setup. Okay, as you can see right here, this is the original email that they responded that, they want to call. And this is what sort of started everything. Okay. Now, obviously, as you can see, the names and the company name are blurred out for the respect of the client and for the privacy. Everything of that is going to be blurred out, but there you go. Right. Anyways, let's just get right into it. I do want to just let everybody know this is going to be a longer video than usual just because of the fact that I am showing the entire sales call and the entire process. So I'm going to have the timestamps down below in the description. If you want to see any certain part, just go skip and, I'm just making it convenient for you guys. But anyways, let's just get right into it. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the initial cold email. This is what we sent off in order to get their interest spiked. Okay. Now I said, and I'm going to just use the name John. I'm going to use, advertising.com as the example just so I can read it out loud. So I said, hello, John. I was in Clutch and I found advertising.com. And I know you guys are paying Clutch on a pay-per-click basis right now. What if instead of being charged on a pay-per-click model, you could send hyper-personalized and relevant emails to cold prospects just like this one on behalf of advertising.com? You'd only pay when we schedule a qualified meeting with a person who comes to the call, can afford your services, and is already is already sold on SEO. Can I send a video going over exactly how advertising.com could find your next 10 clients, your next 9 clients from cold email? Right? Now that was the initial email. Now let me explain to you what's going on here. Now we source these particular leads from a platform called clutch.co. Now for those of you who aren't familiar, clutch.co is a platform where businesses list all sorts of agencies, or agencies more accurately list themselves, and then businesses who want an agency service go on there and see where the best option is. And I'll show you guys what I mean. If I actually go to clutch.co, you could see that if I go to marketing, there's tons of different types of agencies, SEO agencies, and this is the segment in particular that we ended up targeting. Okay, now that's how that looks. Now their business model is charging agencies on a pay-per-click basis, right, when people go on their profile from the Clutch platform. Now that's obviously not very ideal, and we all know that, right? Pay-per-click is not, the favorite model of any agency owner. And of course, we use that as a pain point in our emails. That's why I mentioned the PPC basis. Okay, now Clutch also has the capability to filter by service. So we created segmented lists based on the subsegments for agencies, right? And all that means is instead of having one big list of agencies, we have a list of SEO agencies, a list of PR agencies, a list of paid ad agencies, a list of SMM, social media marketing agencies, if you want to call it that, and then so on, right? All the different industries that we ended up targeting, right? And every single different subsegment got its own message that was hyper relevant to specifically their segment. So you saw how I mentioned in the messaging above that for specifically SEO companies, okay? Now, then the final line, which is the call to action, is where a lot of the importance comes in, right? Now, I'm not going to go into awareness and commitment levels very deeply in this document, right? I've already done that in a lot of different videos, which I'll link one below. But I know for a fact that these prospects have a low awareness and commitment level, right? That's why, as the call to action, we went ahead and we pitched a high value, easy to consume, personalized video. We didn't go guns blazing in, try to get them to get on a call, right? They don't want to do that, right? And that wouldn't have worked if we had did that, right? At first, we just offered a video to prove our competence, right? Now, if you do want to learn about awareness and commitment levels in depth, you can come watch this video, right? I'm going to have it linked somewhere right here in the corner, and I'm also going to have it in the document, which will be in the description, so you can come here and take a look at that asset, okay? Now let's go down to the response. Now, this is the particular response that they had to our first email. Now, for these guys in particular, they responded to our first email. It wasn't like a follow-up or anything, so, right, I'm going to get right into it. Now, they responded, "Thanks, Georgey," which is me, obviously. "What's the average cost per qualified meeting?" Now, the first response was a simple question on how much each qualified meeting would cost. This is not an objection, mind you, right? This is an actual genuine question towards the service, right? So the response is going to be very simple. So I said, "Hi, John. Thanks for getting back to me. Our price per qualified call varies a lot, but you can expect it to be in the range that they are." Let's just say whatever, like $50 to $100, right? It's not actually, but just so you guys know, like $50 to $100 range. "Would you be free for a 20-minute call sometime this week or next week? I have a couple of ideas on how advertising.com could get prospects from sending emails." Now, I phrase it like this because now that he's responded, I can tell he's interested, meaning it's not the same. Like, his awareness level has increased. They actually know something about me now. That's why I pitch a call, right? Now, then they respond again and they ask, "What is the qualification process? What happens if we determine the call is not qualified and it was a waste of time?" So another genuine question. This is not an objection, right? Just mind you guys, objections are, I guess they're straying away and they're kind of expressing they're not interested, right? They're giving themselves reasons to not be interested. This is a genuine question, meaning I'm still under the impression that they are interested in my service, okay? Now, they request more information, so I respond, "Hey, John, what we contribute or what we constitute as a qualified call depends on you. What it usually looks like is a little bit something like this. The prospect needs to make a certain amount of money. The prospect needs to show up to the call. The prospect is interested on the service that we are doing outreach for. The prospect is a decision maker who can tell you yes or no. And only when those 4 criteria are met, that call is counted. If none of them are met, or if one of them isn't met, the call is not counted," right? So we respond to his email. So I send that over and I wait for his response. Now, I don't get a response this time, so now I have a follow-up, right? So I just respond to him in generic. I'm like, "Hey, John, I don't want this to get lost in your inbox. I'm bumping it up." Now, no response in a day on a warm lead, right? Obviously, when someone's warm, we're going to follow up like right the day after, right? For cold leads, we don't do that, but for this guy in particular, we did. Now, here you go, right? They ask another genuine question. Now, in this one, right, I don't have the email there for some reason, but they asked what the setup fee is because I mentioned it in a previous email. Now, I respond, "Hey, John, there is an upfront cost because in order to start the email sending process, we need 25 domains, 50 email accounts, leads, verification, enrichment, and validation credits," right? Which, for those of you guys who know how cold email works, you have to have SMTP credits and all that sort of stuff. Now, keep in mind, they ask how much is the setup fee, right? And I didn't tell them how much the setup fee was, meaning I dodged their question. All right, the only time I'm really going to tell them about that is either going to be in a video, right, where I can actually be like face to face and they can see what I'm talking about, or it's going to be on a call. I'm never going to tell them the price on an email, okay? Now, I really don't want to explain over email because our prices will seem high when you don't know what they actually cover. So in here, I actually offer to send over a video explaining the process and it'll all make sense. So I give them a brief offer, but then basically ask if he wants a video again. Now, mind you, I stopped asking if they wanted a call because he dodged my question 2 times in a row, meaning they're obviously not interested in a call yet. So we have to go back to the original plan, which is offering them some value. Now, in this particular situation, he ended up saying yes. He said, "Hey, that would be great. Thank you." Okay. Now, the prospect agrees and I send over the Loom video. Now, at this point, I think it is in the bag. They watched 100% of the Loom, which I'm going to show you guys the Loom later on, which obviously, is going to have like exactly what I sent, exactly what I went over. But they ended up watching 100% of the Loom, right? And for those of you who don't know, on Loom, you can actually see when someone completed a video fully. And knowing that he watched the full Loom, I could also see that he shared it around with his teammate, which is a big deal, obviously. And then also that I mentioned the pricing in the Loom, and they seemed interested. So they respond, "Hi, Georgey, thanks so much for the time to put the video together. I've just shared it with our CEO for a quick review. In the meanwhile, a few quick follow-up questions. Do you have a minimum contract commitment? Do you have a minimum monthly email send? We've worked we're another outbound agency for about 6 months in the past, and they've sent thousands of emails. Do you foresee this being an issue? As I'm sure we'll be emailing a lot of the same folks again. I hope you can appreciate the number of questions being a sign of our interest in your services. Just wanting to understand a few more details before we make a decision. Now, at this point, I already know like they are interested, right? They would not be asking this many questions. They wouldn't be sharing the Loom, right? At this point, I know they're interested. Now, here you go. I respond, hi, Bob, or hi, John. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Here are the answers to your questions. Since it's a pay-per-call model, there is no minimum commitment. You guys are free to leave at any time, and you retain all assets we create as intellectual property. Once everything is warmed up and scaled up, we'd be sending around 2K emails a day, Monday through Friday, which comes out to about 42K a month. Major holidays excluded, so that number may vary a bit month to month. So you just give them the direct answer. I doubt we will message the same leads because we do things in a very particular way. But even if we did that, it wouldn't really mean anything since these companies are getting hundreds of emails per day, and they won't remember that one specific email they might have gotten months ago. Okay. Now, I'm glad you guys are interested. We can set up a 20-minute call sometime this week or maybe next week, and I can show you guys live how we build out our lead lists. Now, that's our call to action in most of these emails. That's kind of the value. That's the motivation for them coming, is we're going to actually show them how we do things live, okay? And finally, after answering all of this prospect's questions, they finally convert and they say, thanks, Georgey. A call does sound good. Please feel free to grab a time here. And he sent me his Calendly link. Now, this happens sometimes, right? Sometimes they'll ask me to book with them, or sometimes they'll book with us, or most of the time they book with us. But again, this is not a problem. Like, he gave me his Calendly, I booked it in, and that's how that was set. Okay, now let's move on. Now, the Loom video, I'm going to play that right now so you guys can see how that looks. This is a video in response to your last email. I'm just going to give you the quick information about how cold email works, give you a rundown on how everything looks, and go from there. Anyways, sorry for the delay, by the way. I've really been a really busy day, but whatever. Let's just get right into it. So I want to quickly introduce myself, introduce my company. My name is Georgey. I'm the co-founder of Borks.io. We are a full lead generation agency. We build scalable and predictable customer acquisition systems that are all grounded on psychological principles. These aren't things that go out of trend or something. These are things that always work, always will work, and always have worked. Okay? But anyways, with that being said, let's get right into what I want to show you. Some of our clients have worked with Zoom, Copy.ai, LastPass, LA Times, Crunchyroll, Epic Games, Klaviyo, LastPass. A ton of companies. We've been doing this for quite a while, so you could see a couple of our case studies here. You could see some of our pictures, results there. But anyways, let's get right into the video. So first thing I do want to discuss with you is the actual process of getting up the infrastructure in order to send cold email. Now, everything starts at a primary domain, right? Your primary domain is what you use for your website. Now, just for the sake of the example, I'm going to say advertising.com. Okay, now advertising.com, if that's your primary domain, your secondary domain would look like theadvertising.com, goadvertising.com, tryadvertising.com, advertisingagency.com, advertisinghub.com. And that's how your primary domains will look. How your secondary domains would look. For every single one of your secondary domains, you have 2 email accounts, right? And that's because we want to keep the deliverability high. Now, John at theadvertising.com and Bob at theadvertising.com are just 2 theoretical people, and that's the people who are at your company. Okay? So for every secondary domain, you can have 2 email accounts. Now, in this setup right here, we only have 5 domains and 10 emails, but for our real clients and for ourselves as well, we start everybody off at 25 domains and 50 email accounts. Okay, now you can expect 1 email account to be able to send 40 cold emails per day per inbox. Okay, now I'm going to run through the numbers with you real quick so we can really understand what that means. You got the actual math, right? This is the best stuff. You got 25 domains. 25 domains means you got 50 email accounts. If you got 50 email accounts, it means you're sending 40 emails per day per inbox. That's 2,000 emails per day per inbox because 50 times 40 is 2,000. Okay? Now there's 21 sending days out of the month because we're only sending Monday through Friday. That means that you're sending 42,000 emails per month. Okay? Now that is split 50-50 because we're doing 21,000 cold emails and 21,000 follow-ups. Okay? Now a 21,000 cold email pool at a 50% open rate, which is very conservative. We have campaigns at 90% open rates, right? Is going to equal to 10,500 people opening your email. And again, this is very conservative, right? If you have good leads, there's no reason why your open rate should be 50%. Okay, but that's the overlook. Then we got a 5% response rate. Now again, it's pretty much the lowest that we ever do. Like it's typically a little bit better than this, but this is being conservative. You got 525 people interested. 525 people interested. Now imagine 10% are actually interested. Not responded, but actually they express interest in the service. Now 10% seems very low because if they went out of their way to respond, they most likely speaking are interested. But let's just say 10% just for the sake of the example. You got 52 people interested in your service. Now, these people have already expressed that yes, they want a meeting, yes, they want value from you, yes, they want to hear from you, right? Now, imagine somehow 20% only book, like actually book a meeting. That's 10 meetings booked. Now, imagine your closing rate is under industry average, and you're closing at 20%. You have just acquired 2 clients in the span of 1 month doing cold email. And this is nothing crazy. Smart Lead right here, this is the cold email sending software that we use. I'm going to tell you about it later. We have 18 interested prospects, you being one of them. I'm going to scroll down so you can see February 13th is the first date which my lead has responded. It is currently February 14th here in New Jersey in the United States of America. Okay? Meaning that in 2 days, we've gotten 18 interested prospects who want to work with us. Okay? So cold email definitely works. If you know what you're doing and you're sending emails to the right people, it definitely works. Okay? Now let's go back to here. Now we're going to discuss the actual process of launching a campaign. Step number 1, most important part, you got to get your data. Now we use so many different data sources. This is by far the most expensive part, the most time consuming part, the most, talent consuming part. This is where, you either make or break a campaign. You got to get the right data. Now we use Apollo, Brand App, Store Leads, G2, Agency Visa, Snuv, Built With, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, TikTok ads, Google, Sortlist, Appify, Amazon, Klaviyo partners, SEM Pro partners. We use all sorts of different agencies, all sorts of different types of lead sources in order to find all sorts of different types of businesses. Now the platforms that we decide to use in order to target obviously depends on who it is that we're targeting. But for example, in your situation, we found you guys on Clutch. So that's what we did to find you. Now, this is only going to get you the website URLs, and that's not an email address, right? You still have to do that part later. Now I'm going to touch on that, and I'm even going to show you how I actually found your exact email, right? I'm literally going to show you, okay? Now let's continue. Now, after you got those URLs, you have to validate those URLs because you're going to have a lot of invalid data. Now, keep in mind, right? Companies go out of business, companies get acquired, companies close down. Things happen in life. So all of this data that you just scraped isn't necessarily all valid, right? Now, we have a proprietary tool in the agency which is able to check hundreds of thousands of websites on certain factors, right? Now, the first 2 things we do always. The next 2 things we do sometimes. So the first 2 things is checking whether a website is still active. This makes perfect sense. If your domain's inactive, you're not a qualified lead. If your website's not in English, then you're not a qualified lead either, right? We only do outreach to English markets. We only do outreach in English. So those 2 criteria have to be met. And this actually happened to you, right? We did automatically check your website. Obviously, it is live. And we did actually check your website for it, being English. And it was English. That's why, I'm sending you this video right now. Then the next 2 steps is checking whether a website has social media profiles and checking whether the website has any blacklisted domains in it. Now, when I say that a website has social media profiles, it's sometimes in the footer or sometimes on top or somewhere on the website, or not sometimes, most times. Any serious company will include their social media profiles somewhere on their website, right? So for us, it's right here, as you can see. Or for the D2C side of things, when we're targeting e-commerce companies, we'll do this a lot. We don't really do it as much for agencies, but it is a capability that we have access to. Now, after this step is complete, we have a cleaned list of URLs. Then we come to a software called Apollo. Now, Apollo is where we are able to actually get the decision maker's contact information. I'm going to show you exactly how I did that to you right now after I explain this process. Now, you take a company URL, you company match it in Apollo, then you find the employees that work at that company, then you add certain filters and you filter by job title. Now, I'm not sure why there isn't anything here. This must be a little glitch in the document, but usually it says CEO, owner, director, chairman, all of the executive positions in a company. Right, now we're going to go here. Now, after that's done, we take it to a tool called Million Verifier. Now, Million Verifier is a tool that verifies email addresses. Just like I mentioned earlier, companies go out of business, people get fired, people get replaced. You have to be sure that the people you're emailing are still valid, right? So what Million Verifier does is exactly that, right? It validates email addresses. Now, you're going to give Million Verifier a big list that you just scraped from Apollo, and that is going to separate into 3 groups. It's going to separate into valid, risky, invalid. Valid emails are going to be emails that are just ready for sending. They're just 100% real. Risky emails are going to be emails that could potentially be real, but they could also potentially be not real. And these are actually verifiable, but you're going to have to go through a deep verification process, which takes a lot more time and a lot more money. So we set this aside for later. And the reason we set it aside for later is because when we test a bunch of different angles and segments, which we'll talk about in a little bit, we'll know immediately which ones work. And then we'll only pay to verify the ones that we know work. Okay? And then invalid are just invalid. They just don't work. And we add those to a database to ensure that we don't requeue them again later. Obviously not to waste money. So after we get a list of all the verified people, we have one big list. And that's not good. We want to have a bunch of small lists. In this particular situation, one of our segments was SEO. We also had a segment for PR companies, a segment for PPC companies, and all sorts of different segments. And each one of them had their own message. So the SEO segment had that little comment about SEO. The PR segment had the little comment about PR. And that's exactly what we do. But all of them push the same offer, which is inevitably this video. Okay? That's kind of how the average looks. Now, once we have all of our lists prepared, these are verified lists, there's one more step before we go live. That step is validating our companies through AI. Now, we use OpenAI's API. OpenAI is the company behind ChatGPT, great company. We use their service in order to validate company names. Now, the reason this is important is because a lot of the time when you export these leads, they're going to have messed up company names. So like Borks LLC, Borks Inc., Borks all capital, and stuff like this. All you need is just Borks. You don't want to have anything else. Like imagine if I would have sent you a message and instead of just saying, I said SaaS SEO company, right? Like that wouldn't be legitimate, right? You wouldn't respond to me because it would look very suspicious and it would look like an automatic email. So we make sure that all of that gets filtered out with the use of AI. And that's when we go into Smart Lead. Smart Lead is a dedicated cold email sending tool. It's not like MailChimp or something that's just for emails in general. This is specifically for a cold email. And we set up everything. Now, again, this is a massive oversimplification because of the fact that if I were to explain everything, we would be here for hours. Now, that's kind of how email works from an overall perspective. Now, there's 3 components to our offer. There's a pay-per-call, our setup fee, and a small retainer. I'm going to quickly run through everything. The pay-per-call is anywhere from $100 to $300. The only time that you pay for that call is when we get you on the phone with a prospect who shows up. The prospect has to be a decision maker who can actually give you a yes or no answer. The prospect has to be interested in SEO. The prospect has to meet your certain criteria. So if you tell me, George, I only want to work with fintech SaaS companies that are making 100 to 200K a month that are based in the United States, which are using, I don't know, Intercom, then we can literally only message those companies and only will we book those companies, right? We can really get dialed down with the filtering. And I would love to show you on a call of us actually building a lead list out live. But that's the only time you pay for the call. The small retainer is $200 per month. That just goes towards your email accounts and your sending software. Just so you know, by the way, the cheapest email accounts in the market are 50 email accounts. Because of the fact that we're managing thousands of inboxes, we have major discounts and stuff like this, right? But we're only charging you $20 a month for email accounts and sending software when if you were to go get it yourself, it'd be $2 a month alone. Okay, and this is not even including everything else. This is the cheap part. The most expensive parts are the leads, right? So that's kind of how that looks. Then the main component of the offer is the setup fee. Now, with our setup fee, it's typically because we have to usually build out a landing page for the client as well. For you guys in particular, you already have a very nice landing page. There's nothing, we don't really need to change anything here. So for you guys, it'd be a setup fee. That would go towards your 50 email accounts, your 25 domains, your sending software, your appointment setter, all of your leads, your verification credits, your validation credits, everything that goes into actually starting an outreach campaign, you guys are being, covered by that. And then the only starts next month after we start working together, to cover those just operating costs. Now, if you've ever done cold ad or paid ads, you know that $1 to get a system up and running is not that much. It's really, nothing crazy, especially considering you could be acquiring 2 extra new clients a month, and that's very, very statistically, mathematically possible, right? So that's kind of how that would look. So if this is something that you're interested in, we can book in a outbound audit call. All an outbound audit call is is we're basically going to build out a lead list live for you on the call. We're literally going to take your ICP and build it out, right? And I'm going to show you like not just a generalized approach, but exactly how we would do it for you so you can see how this would work specifically for you, okay? Now, that's about it, right? All I'm going to say is even if in the future, we end up not working together or you decide that you guys want to take it internal, you guys always keep the system, you guys always keep all the domains, all the email accounts. So the setup fee isn't even in reality spending money. It's just converting it from a currency to, a cold email asset. So that's about it. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to get back to me on email and I'll get you a response. Okay, I hope the Loom video made sense. I hope you guys got some value from there. Now I'm going to show you the sales call and you guys are going to see that I refer to the materials from the Loom video on my sales call. So here goes. Now, the Loom I sent you over, just out of curiosity, did you watch it through fully or did you only watch part of it?
Yeah, I watched through pretty much all of it. Yep.
Gotcha. So you know this whole process. I'm not going to go over this again, but this is kind of like the idea of how you do cold email coming from a broad perspective, right? Now, obviously, I didn't go into super in detail because I need to know like information about your company in specific, but obviously now that we're here on the call, I can actually give you real detailed data. Now, you guys are, from what it looks like, specifically targeting SaaS companies. There aren't any other industries that you guys are doing, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I have this one client right now. We just started working with him recently. He also targets SaaS companies. What he does is he launches companies using, are you familiar with what Product Hunt is?
Product Hunt. Yep.
Yeah, so he launches people on Product Hunt and then promotes them through organic content funnels on Reddit, Quora, and all this sort of stuff. He's like known in like that industry to be like the product launch guy. And like he's worked with HubSpot, Zoom, LastPass, Honey, Copy.ai, PandaDoc, all these big companies. And like he knows what he's doing in that very, very specific niche, right? Now, for him in particular, right, we've talked to him and we found that his ideal client profile is going to be startups. It's not necessarily massive software companies. He's worked with them, right? And this guy's been in rooms with Grant Cardone. He's done like a bunch of big things, but he wants to be specifically targeting, specifically, companies that are startups, companies that have funding, but they aren't necessarily like been around for too long, right? Now, the way I showed you the call, or I'm sorry, on the video, is there's a lot of different methods, which you could see here, whether it's Apollo, Brand Nav, Stories, G2, a bunch of different methods. Now, the method that I find interesting for you guys in particular, there's two. Number one is Capterra. Are you familiar? You familiar with Capterra?
Yep. Yep.
Right. Now, Capterra, it's meant to be, um, obviously it's not meant to be used for what we're using it, but what it's meant to be used is like a database of software companies. Now, these are the best types of places where we like finding leads, right? Think about it. That's kind of what we did to you guys. We went on Clutch, which is a database of agencies, and we reached out to you by saying that, hey, we saw you on Clutch. Now, Capterra could be an interesting option for doing exactly what we did to you, but from your perspective, right? Going on Capterra, scraping these software companies, obviously, Salesforce, Zoho, Monday, like, most likely speaking, they aren't interested in SEO because they're already like big, big people. But as you scroll down, there's companies here that aren't so big. You know what I mean? Like Halo
Yeah.
CRM, right? They have 2 reviews on here. And then there's pages upon pages of pages of these companies. Now that's one source, right? Immediately, another really good source for stuff like this is G2. Are you familiar with G2?
Yep. Yep.
Right? Look at all of these software companies, right? If I message somebody and I say, hey, I saw that you guys are selling ERP. I don't even know what ERP stands for, but ERP accounting software, and I saw you guys on Clutch, like they're never gonna think that that's a cold email, right? They're gonna immediately think that you guys actually went through the process of like filtering these people out and actually did research on their company, which, when you guys got an email from me saying that I saw you on Clutch and specifically mentioned that you guys do SEO. Did you think that it was personalized? Did you think that, were you expecting it to be an automated cold email?
I did assume it was cold, but I appreciated the level of customization of it or personalization of it. Just
Yeah.
knowing, yeah, just how you can get that. Like it did definitely sound a lot different than
Hmm.
the generic emails you get
Of course,
from
right. So that's
everyone
kind
else.
of the point of it, right? Obviously, especially in something like SaaS, a lot of people are doing a lot of outreach. So you have to really stand out in the inbox, especially with a service like SEO, because like SEO is one of those services where It doesn't just work like month one. Like you really have to sell somebody on SEO for them to want to go with you. And I'm guessing you
Yeah.
guys have some sort of minimum commitment too, like probably like 6 months for your contracts.
Yeah, we've been trying to push to get annual contracts now, but we do have 30-day opt-out clauses available
Mm,
to our
okay.
clients. So
Yeah,
we do use that as a kind of
I got
risk,
you.
yeah, play.
Okay, well that's actually good to know because a lot of the time when you work in an SEO company, they're not giving you that option because they have some sort of guarantee to meet, and then their guarantee is stipulated on the fact you have to stay with them for a certain amount of months, but that makes sense, right? Now, for you guys in particular, SaaS, super easy to target because of the fact there are so many SaaS companies. These are two ways already, right? Using something like G2 and using something like Capterra. Now, all of these different things, if you were to actually like go through all of this and see how many there are, there's probably like, I'd say, I don't know, at least 50,000 leads because like, G2 is a pretty big process or a pretty big software for like finding software companies. Then Capterra, that's another really big one. Then there's Getlotka. Are you familiar with Getlotka?
Yeah, yep.
So you guys know all these people. That's good to know. Okay. So for these guys in particular, this is one of those interesting ones because you can get very, very specific companies here, like security software. They have like artificial intelligence productivity apps. Like if you email
Mm,
someone and say, "Hey, we've helped specifically HR or we help specifically HR SaaS companies," because this could be saved as like a variable and then I can mention it in the email, right? I'm sure you see why this could be very, very interesting if you're targeting the right leads, right? And the
yeah,
angle would always be that, hey, I saw you on this platform. Hey, I saw you on here. And you're going to come off as a very interested person. Now, I'll show you some of the other very interesting angles and this is obviously like, this is really getting into it. This is when we start doing optimizations. Imagine, hypothetically speaking, I'm going to go to SEO tools or probably not SEO tools because you guys are selling SEO, but here, let's go to someone else like marketing. If I go to marketing automation, right? All of these companies are in the same category. Now, if I go to, or active campaigns big, but like if I go to someone smaller, like for example, Mo Engage, right? And I go to their reviews and I go to they have no one-star reviews. Okay. Well, the point I'm trying to get across is if I'm going to find like, say a company's one-star reviews, and then you can reach out to that company and be like, hey, I just saw you guys had some low quality reviews. You could really get that up if you were to start getting more customers in and offer them to help get customers in. And even though your original message has nothing to do with their G2 review, it's just like, who would really go and read through reviews? And we can scrape all of this too, right? And there's so many different angles that you can take with something like this. I'm just sort of trying to show you like real life scenarios, right? Of like how you would target a SaaS company and make it seem personalized. It's kind of the point of the call. So we can sort of show you how you could be doing cold email in a very personalized approach. Now, just out of curiosity, do you guys already do any cold email or is it like a new thing for you guys?
yeah. No, so we worked with an outbound agency,
Hmm.
actually up until we're actually ending our engagement with them now because we've been
Yeah.
going for about 6 months or so, and we've gotten appointments and we have closed a couple of
Mhm.
deals from it, but for what we were like, we had minimum monthly commitments, and it was just our cost per acquisition was getting really, really high.
Yeah.
And honestly, one of the things that most interested me in speaking with you too, and even just listening to you go through like the variables and personalization here,
Hmm.
one of the things that we haven't been super happy with is just a lot of it's kind of come back on to us to like come up with scripts and ideas on how to
Oh, wow.
what to send people. Whereas like we understand fully, like we need to like give you guys information about us and have input and collaborate on things. But it was very much like there were no script tests really going on much,
Hmm.
unless we sort of told them what to say. But like you just saying there about like the review angle and like that being unique, like we haven't really gotten any of that too much more
Yeah.
recently. So that's nice. It sounds like you would help a lot more with that, with the scripting.
Yeah. So, by the way, I know you mentioned that in the email. Sorry, I just that slipped out of my head. So I do remember you
Yeah.
mentioning that. First of all, we never will request for you to write a script. It's actually we have it like as a strict rule that we don't let clients write scripts because a lot of the time, what clients think will work will not actually work. So, and we've had that before, right? Where we start working with a client and they're like, actually, let's do this. And we're like, actually, if you want to go on a retainer and then we can run your scripts, that's fine. But we're on a performance basis and we know that won't work because of these reasons. And unfortunately, we can't do it, right? So for you guys, right, SaaS isn't like an industry we like don't know. I own a software company myself, by the way. I don't know if I'm right. I don't think I mentioned anywhere, but I actually own messengerflow.com. We're in the beta stage right now, so we're not launched yet, but it's an automation company that's going to be automating Facebook Messenger outreach, which I'll touch on in a little bit because that's actually a very interesting angle for you guys. And like I understand like what like how it feels to have a software company, so I understand like what these people want, right? Out of what your service is. So we
Yeah.
definitely won't be requesting for you guys to write anything. The one thing that we do work with you on is creating a compelling offer because that's ultimately what it comes down to. If your
Mhm.
offer is bad, like no amount of outreach is going to save you, right? And I'm going to
Yeah.
show you real quick. This is actually something I'm working on for something completely like unrelated, but I post like these sales assets online to attract like inbound leads. They're like lead magnets. It's not done yet, but this is something we launched recently for a client where we booked 6 meetings and 37 other interested prospects in just 3 days. And there's a picture right here. You could see February 14th and the February 15th, and that's February 19th where I am right now. And in this, because we don't send Mondays or we only send through Monday to Friday, so in 3 days, 37 interested people is crazy. And it's not like we're doing some sort of like insane personalization or something like that. We're doing the same amount of personalization we do for all of our clients. But with this particular client, we just had a very, very good offer, right? And the difference between having a really good offer and having a terrible offer is literally night and day. If we launch the same campaign, one with a bad offer, one with a good offer, like one is going to do amazing, one is going to do terrible, right? And this guy's particular offer, they help e-commerce brands and e-commerce brands they help them get like UGC creators, so people like posting about their product, and that's very valuable to e-commerce brands. And these aren't like random leads booking, like 50 to 200K a month, or 10 to 20K a month for this brand, 10 to 20K a month for this brand, 10 to 20K a month for this brand, 20 to 50K for this brand, 20 to 50K for this brand. Like you could see like $500,000 a month for this brand. Like these are real
Mm.
people booking, and these offers work for everybody. So our number one task with you guys is to work with you to sort of come up with one of those offers, which is going to be just so incentivizing for the person who is receiving it, right? And if we have that down and we have a good amount of messaging going out, which I mentioned to you, the minimum we do for all clients is 2,000 a day, Monday through Friday when we have everything scaled up. So I mean, 2,000 emails a day is a fair amount of emails.
Yeah.
You gotta have a good offer. I mean, we don't launch a campaign until we know we have a good offer. You know you have good leads because I mean you've seen this. Like our process of going and getting leads is very vigorous. Like you can see how many steps, and this is the simplified version. Imagine what really happens behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all of the things are checked off, and at that point, it's just a matter of having good case studies. And I took a look at your guys' case studies; they're crazy, right? I mean, like this one in particular, one you have on your landing page, right? How you guys generated 2.8 million in ARR. Like I'm definitely mentioning that in the email, right? So in something like this, right? Like you guys already have like everything we need, and then I really don't see this being a problem. Now, just out of curiosity, what's your offer right now?
Yeah. So the offer that we've been running right now is really just to jump on a call and share where we see like 2 or 3 organic growth opportunities. So we can try to personalize and share that. And then we've also been testing like, hey, we'll even put together like a Loom video that walks through, but we've just found we've just been giving tons of free advice. Companies take the video and then never respond. So that's pretty much the main thing we've been saying so far.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so like, let's say someone is interested. Like, what's the offer? Like, what's the actual like? Is there a guarantee? Is there a risk reversal? Do you guys have any of those components?
No, we don't really. We no, not really. Really, the biggest thing is for us is just we've kind of said it. We talk about our retention and talk about some of the other like similar companies. We try to pick companies that are similar size to them. Say this is what we did for them. Be similar for
Hmm.
you. This is the result we got. We operate month to month with 30-day opt outs. We've only really recently started putting annual into our contract, but that's how we say like we just try to continually win your trust and with the
Hmm.
results we're getting month to month. And a lot of companies have sort of reacted positively to that because they are used to being tied into like sign on for a year
Hmm.
and there's no guarantees and things like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So hypothetically speaking, how sure are you guys that you can get results? If you were put in contact with a company that meets your qualification, um, like they meet what you guys constitute as a qualified lead, how
Mm.
confident are you that you can deliver?
Yeah, very confident, but they need to stay long enough
Yeah.
um, for things to, no, as you said at the start of the call, like
Mhm.
ideally at least 6 months
Yeah,
to
to start
get
seeing
things
results.
going. Yeah,
So basically, right, I have a lot of friends who like they do stuff in SEO. Obviously, I'm an agency owner, so I have agency owner friends. A lot of the time, what
yeah,
these companies do is they give you a guarantee, and the stipulation on the guarantee is that you have to meet certain criteria. Now, I'm not an SEO like master, so I don't know exactly what goes into it, but I do know that a lot of it is writing content and writing content that is good, right? Is that correct?
yes.
Right. So are you guys making content for them, or is the client responsible for making their own content?
We do produce content for our clients. Some
Mhm.
clients though already have like a separate content agency doing it all, or they have
Mhm.
internal. So there are some client, there are a number of clients where we don't actually do the content for them because they already have.
Mhm.
We're just collaborating with their writers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so it varies.
is the only requirement for you guys to get results, to confidently be able to get results, just a matter of them staying long enough.
Staying long enough and also executing. Because one of the things, honestly, that we run into, which is kind of crazy, companies will spend money to bring you on and
Mhm.
work together, but then you're giving them all the deliverables and then they don't do anything internally themselves.
Yeah.
And it's we've noticed it even more so in the last 6 months because obviously with the economy and everything, a lot of SaaS companies have laid off a lot of
Mhm.
employees, a lot of marketing employees, and so they're
Yeah.
just really short staffed. So they engage another partner like us, and then they don't have any resources to implement. That's been a challenge for us.
Hmm. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I ask is because hypothetically speaking, what a lot of these companies do is they approach a lead and they'll tell them that, hey, I can guarantee that we're going to increase your revenue, or I can guarantee that we'll get you this amount of new clients, or I guarantee some sort of quantifiable result in money, right? It doesn't have to be 15%. It just has to be some sort of quantifiable result that you can actually visually imagine. And then there's
Mhm.
stipulations in the contract, meaning in order for you to qualify for this guarantee, you have to stay with us for 6 months. You have to act on what we say we have to do, and blah, 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 blah. It's like a list. And think about it like this. Imagine a fitness trainer came to you and he said, I guarantee you I'll get you shredded. As long as you eat healthy every single day, go to the gym every single day, don't drink alcohol, and train hard. If you just follow those, if you stay within that guarantee, you'll get shredded, and therefore the guarantee works. So that's kind of the idea of it. If you guys are super, super confident that you can deliver for a company as long as certain criteria are met, if that's an offer that you guys were willing to try, that would be very, very interesting in cold outreach, especially for something like SEO, because you guys can give them the option to opt out. That doesn't have to go away, but then they void the guarantee, right? So it's kind of like you got yourself covered in both ways. If they want to sign a long-term contract, they can because of the fact that it's incentivized, right? They have the guarantee. Or if for whatever reason they decide that it's not for them down the line, they can just leave, but therefore they don't have the guarantee, right? Is that something you guys would be, or as something you, I can't speak right now, sorry. Is that something you'd be willing to consider?
Yeah, I think so for sure. I don't. You have to take it back to the team and just
Mm-hmm.
talk about like, yeah, if they want to be, if they're comfortable doing that. But
Yeah.
honestly, like it makes a lot of sense having some sort of performance based offer.
Yeah.
Um, would be way more compelling than just, hey, let me share where I'm seeing some opportunities.
Yeah. Of course, right?
Yeah.
And again, right? So I'm not actually the one who's doing the actual like running ads and everything. I do sales calls, I do outbound stuff. Like I'm the one who's like the front of the agency, but I have a partner, his name's Tyler. He's the one who does the actual service delivery. He goes on the onboarding calls. He's the one that you're going to be talking to on a day-to-day basis. So he's really the one who knows how to make the best offer. I'm just saying from like my personal experience, like seeing what the other clients are doing, almost always giving someone something tangible to hold on to is going to make them interested, right? Like that's
Yeah.
almost always what we do. And I'll show you, like, for example, like this isn't exactly relevant to you because this is for e-commerce, but imagine you went on this website and you were an e-commerce brand, and we said that we'll add hundreds of buyers to your email list and increase your email sales by 30% in 60 days. You know
Mm.
exactly what we're doing, by how much, in how much time. And then if we do not increase your sales by at least 30% in 60 days, you'll receive a full refund of your money. Why would you not want to do that? Like, you have no risk, you have nothing, right? But again, obviously with this company, there's certain criteria you have to meet before you qualify for that. So you can't just take them on and then ghost them and then all of a sudden they owe you a refund. You can't do that, right? If you do everything on your end, but then for some reason they mess up, then they'll give you back your money. And for these guys in particular, we're doing great. And these guys, the ones I showed you here, the one that we're booking a bunch of meetings for, their offer is literally no setup fee, no upfront costs, only meant for e-commerce brands that are in a certain industry, and this is specifically one in health and wellness, and specifically ones that are not on TikTok Shop, and specifically ones that are not doing UGC. They guarantee, I think it's 15% they'll raise your brand's revenue with UGC if you meet specific criterias, and like some of those criteria can only be determined on a sales call. And if those are met, they're almost 99% sure that they can deliver. And the reason I say 99% is because that 1% of time that they're wrong, yeah, they have to, they end up working for free. But in result of doing that, they sign 10 times more clients. So
Yeah.
it kind of balances out. You know what I mean? You guys might end up having to refund somebody, but
Yeah.
in result of doing it, you would have gotten 2,000 times more revenue because it's so simple to say yes, right? And a lot of the time, when you see offers like this is the other thing that's very interesting. It's for newer companies that don't have the, how do I say this? Like the right to charge up front. For you guys, you have both. You have the case studies and you have the offer, meaning now there's no reason why companies shouldn't work with you. And now you have the volume and the targeting and everything in place. I don't see why this can't work, right? Now I mentioned this in the video. Typically, our setup fee, it's right, because we also usually have to make a landing page like this one, right? Like I don't know if you realize, but this one looks a lot like ours, right? Because we use like the same concept. For you guys, you already
Mm.
have a good landing page, so we don't need to remake a landing page for you. Meaning we're gonna charge you since we don't have to do that part. Um, I mean, again, like this looks really good, right? I'll be honest with you. Like you guys have the case studies. It's in an industry that we know how to target. I showed you three different ways of targeting software companies. It's going to be very unique. GetLotka, G2, and then Capterra. We know how to scrape all three of these. We've already scraped them. We've already run campaigns to them. We know they're good lead sources. And then the rest of the process is documented here, right? Which you've seen already. So what are you thinking? Is this something you want to give a try?
Yeah, I already spoke to our partner, and he's very interested too. I think the biggest thing for us is just what's our offer going to be and how
Mm-hmm.
do we get that, which I know we've kind of talked about. Like let's just say go back to the team and they're like, we don't really want to do the guarantee thing, at least like
Mm-hmm.
guaranteeing revenue, because the one thing with SEO too, that like there are a lot of variable, like it's a lot different than just like running paid ads, for example. Like there
Yeah.
is some elements of variability that does make it a bit harder to come up with what that guarantee is.
Yeah.
um but like, let's definitely open to it. But let's just say, like, if we didn't want to go that route, like if there's a bit too much risk in it for us, like if we get 6 months down the road and now we've got to refund tens of
Yeah.
thousands of dollars, like that's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would be like the next thing? Because I just feel like our offer that we've ran has been pretty weak. Like it's obvious. Like our reply
Yeah.
rates have been like 0.1%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you guys in particular, have you guys done any outbound before or even paid ads?
Paid ads. Oh, we've been doing some Google ads just around our high intent keywords like SaaS SEO agency and those
Mm-hmm.
sorts of things. And we've done a little bit of LinkedIn. We're actually working. We're just about to start working with a LinkedIn ad agency now too, who are going to build out a LinkedIn ad funnel for us as well. So we'll have that running in the next month or two as well.
Have you already started working with them or no?
We've just signed on with them. Yeah, like literally this month.
that I'm just saying because we actually have a client who does LinkedIn ads with a very good guarantee, and they've worked with specifically SaaS companies. I'll show you them real quick. Um, it's just funny you mention because these guys have worked with like they do specifically a lot of SaaS stuff. ClickUp, that's $1 billion company. I believe they passed over $1 billion valuation. A lot of stuff, and they're specifically LinkedIn guys, and they increase your already existing revenue by at least 55% guaranteed, or your entire money back. So, I just wanted to mention that, but
Hmm.
I guess it's a little bit late for that, but it doesn't matter. I'm sure the guys you chose are already good, but to answer
Yeah.
your question, what are we gonna do if you guys aren't comfortable doing that offer? There's always something you can do, right? Again, I'm not like the offer creation guy, so I don't have the
Yeah.
expertise my partner does. But like, there's not a situation where we can't come to an agreement. Like what I just told you is just one of like millions of different offers that we can give you, right? And you guys can choose what works for you. Maybe it's not a certain amount of money that you're guaranteeing, but it's a certain amount of new clients. Maybe one of the stipulations is that they have to have a landing page that meets your criteria. Like for us, for example, we simply just won't work with a client if they don't have a good landing page. And if they don't have a good landing page, we offer to build one. And if they don't want one, we just won't work with you because we just
Yeah.
know that we're just not going to book calls if your landing page is just bad. Because
Yeah.
what's going to happen, and I'm sure you did this too, you read my email, you copied my domain, put it in your browser, and went to my website. Am I correct?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Right? So if my website just didn't exist and then you Googled my name and nothing came up and you searched up my company and nothing came up, you would be like, what is this? Like I'm not working with these guys, like it's too suspicious, right? So landing page obviously matters. Whether it's including more stipulations or whether it's going with a completely different new offer, it really depends. And that's where the expertise comes in. I'll be honest with you. We are a lead generation agency, but the smallest part of what we do is lead generation. The biggest part is really offer curation and everything around the lead generation. Physically setting up a campaign to send emails is not rocket science. Like it really isn't. Like it's just like, I mean, like you just click create campaign, you add your leads, you write your scripts, like that's it. But creating everything else, the landing page, right? Creating the offer, creating the value proposition, creating the guarantee, the risk reversal, getting the right leads, targeting the right people, making sure your leads are verified, making sure your bounce rate is low, making sure deliverability is on point, making sure your
Mm.
emails account are warmed up. That's really where the expertise comes in. And that's where the experience, like you have to have experience. Actually setting up an email campaign isn't that hard. Anybody can do that, right? That's why these tools are $40 a month. But in your particular situation, especially with SEO, SEO is infamous for being hard to sell. So we definitely have to come up with something. I'm not sure exactly what the finished product is going to look like, but whether it's a certain amount of revenue or whether it's a certain amount of clients or an increase in something tangible. It has to be, that's the one criteria. It has to be tangible. Like if I tell you I'm going to increase your revenue by 10% and you know that your revenue is say $100,000, immediately you understand what 10,000 is. Like you can quantify that. If I tell you I'm going to send you 500 visitors to your website, you don't know what that is. Like what is 500 visitors? They're numbers on a screen. They don't mean anything, right?
Mhm.
But $10,000 is $10,000. That's X amount of rent, X amount of food, X amount of this. Like it's real. It's quantifiable. So that's really the only criteria. But we've never had it that, we can't come to an agreement. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah,
So
this does sound good. Like, what would be a next step from here?
okay. Well, I mean, if everything sounds good for you guys, I can send over the agreement, right? It's just a formality that says that you guys are going to, pay us when we book a qualified call. When you go on the onboarding call after the agreement is signed, you and my partner Tyler come to an agreement on what constitutes as qualified, right? Obviously, that goes in addition to the three things I already mentioned, which is the person has to show up, the person has to be the decision maker, and then the person also has to be interested in SEO. And then any of the very niche things, like they have to be specifically this type of company or be making about this amount of revenue. You guys determine what the quantifiable number is. Now, in order for us to determine how much is going to be per call, I just need to ask you a couple of questions. And like really the first one is what do you guys usually see as your LTV on an average client?
I would say usually play around.
Why do people usually leave? Is it because just the contract ends or why do people usually leave?
Usually it's we kind of hit a ceiling with what we're doing, or in a lot of cases they end up just hiring internal team members that they or they've the internal team members that they had when we came in just end up taking over stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I say that like it's probably is higher than that. Like our average retention is usually 12 to 18 months, and we usually
Mhm.
chart our average is usually between
Okay.
yeah.
So that means that your guys' LTV is usually being cut off by someone going either in-house or you guys just like not being able to really do more with what you have. It's not
Yeah.
really people churning. It's more just like people going in-house or doing what, which happens in any industry.
Yeah, and sometimes too, like we did lose some clients last just due to budget. Like they just laid people off and had no money to spend. So that
Yeah.
happened a few times. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does your churn look overall? Is it low?
Yeah, yes, it is. I would say outside of like external factors outside of our control, like purely from
Hmm.
us, it is yeah, quite low, I would say.
Hmm.
I don't have honestly an exact number,
Hmm.
but it would be single digits per year, I would say. Like a lot of most clients stay at least that long. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And then I know you guys haven't done a lot of like cold outbound, but do you have a rough closing rate in mind? Like if you're on the phone with someone who's qualified, what's your average closing rate look like?
Yeah, so typically if we can get what yeah, factoring in the cold. If we can get 10 calls a month, I would be expecting us to be closing at least one or two of those.
Hmm.
Um, and our goal right now, our quarterly goals is to be closing at least 5 new clients a quarter. So
Hmm.
we know from that we're trying to get about 25 to 30 appointments per quarter. So
Hmm.
like about 10 a month would be good at
Hmm.
least. Qualified, that'd be great.
Okay. And just roughly, what do you consider as qualified?
A qualified lead would be like a B2B SaaS company, someone coming in who's a VP of marketing, CMO, or like a director of demand gen, digital marketing manager, those sorts of titles.
Hmm.
Um, the company's doing has 11 to 50 employees typically. So they're not massive, but they're not pure startups.
Yeah.
And they've usually got like a Series A funding round through, and they have a few internal marketing people that can
Hmm.
help sort of put some resources behind what we're doing as well.
Yeah. So I mean that's very doable, right? I mean, there's plenty of SaaS companies that are 11 to 50 headcount. I mean, that's not.
And bigger than that's fine too. Like we do have clients that are a lot bigger than that, but just I'd say that's kind of like a lot of the companies we work with. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do segments as well. So, like, usually when we have like the actual industry figured out, we're gonna start doing segments, meaning even though you guys think that's your ICP, you might not know there's someone outside your ICP that's gonna
Mm.
be even better. And that's happened before. Like that's, I mean, you can imagine, right? We obviously so like your exact ICP, there's only so many people in that fit there. And like at one point we do have to start talking to other people. And then you might just find out that you prefer working with 25 to 50, right? Right, 50 to 100 employees. So that's definitely something we're gonna test. Um, but okay, so then that estimate of qualified prospect about 1 to 2 call or about 10 to 20% closing rate, is that being conservative or is that like sort of you're not too sure about that?
Um, Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. That's just kind of a goal we hit because we were finding for a while when they were warmer leads, we were closing one in every three or four who
Hmm.
were coming like sort of organically through our website. But
Okay.
we just don't get a huge amount of those. But the colder, we were finding usually one in 10 we were closing. So, you know,
Hmm.
yeah, or
Okay.
1 to 7 in 10. That's why we're like, if we can get 30 or so, we can probably, and they're qualified,
Hmm.
um, we can probably get that close 5 of them, which would
Hmm.
be kind of our minimum target.
Hmm. Okay. I see what you're saying. All right. Okay. So, and
More
then,
would be awesome.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, I think if you guys refine the sales process, and here's the other thing that, obviously makes a big difference. So you know how I offered to send you that video in my original message?
Yes.
So that's what we do for all the clients, right? It's what we call the commitment aware outreach process. Now, whether you guys have the resources to make it personalized depends on you guys. We have clients that are simply too busy to do that. All they do is they make one asset and then we send that asset to everybody, which works also really good. Not as good as a personalized asset, but obviously, if you don't have the resources to do that, there's not another choice. And when somebody goes through the process of watching you speak for 10 to 15 minutes, like in a row, like they're going to come to these sales calls a lot more qualified,
Yeah.
especially in my situation. Like, explain to me, right? If I told you my exact prices, my exact offer, my exact everything, why would you show up to the call if you weren't interested? Right?
Hmm.
Like there's nothing out of the story. You know exactly like what I'm offering to you. You know exactly why you're coming here. And that's gonna happen to you guys. If you tell these people, this is how SEO works, this is why it works, this is how we do it, this is who we've done it for, this is how much we charge, and they show up to the call, they're not just gonna be like, wait, you guys charge money? Right? So that qualified call is like another level of qualified because they've already watched whoever's gonna make this asset. They already know whatever you guys do, and it's like another level of qualification. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if you guys start closing at like even a higher rate than 10%, but that's just what we'll use for the sake of the example. Now, hypothetically speaking, if someone or what do you guys charge month one, if you don't mind me asking?
Month one, we just our minimum engagements are a month, and that starts from month one. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
All right.
month one is usually more of like strategy based, where we're building out the strategy and getting all the reporting and everything set up and getting the
Mhm.
initial deliverables based on whatever they chose, getting those kind of queued up so that then as we go into month two, we're kind of hit the ground running.
Okay. So in your guys' situation, based on what everything you've told me, based on the ICP base who we're targeting, you're going to be looking around per call. Again, you're only paying for this call when the person is qualified, shows up, is a decision maker, and makes enough money to work with you guys, right? So in your situation, it's not necessarily money, but it's headcount. So 5 to, 50 or
Yeah.
whatever we end up deciding on, like formally. Um, I mean, we can run the numbers if per call, and you guys, are pretty sure you can close at a 10% rate. At worst, you're looking at this is again at absolute worst. And again, like we don't have any clients closing at 10% unless you guys are just exceptionally bad at sales. Like I really don't think that's gonna happen. Cause like again, like why would someone watch the video and know everything and then show up and then
Yeah.
still like every all of the cards are on the table. It's not like they're showing up to a call just like, oh, like what is SEO? Like they're gonna know everything when they show up. But at worst
Yeah.
case scenario, you guys are looking at a first month you would end up getting, making, and then all your other clients, depending on the fact you said your churn is pretty low, every single month you're keeping all of your profit, right? A lot of agencies are going to charge you an LTV, meaning every single month you're paying them. For us, it's only a part of that first month. And on a worst case scenario, you're getting, right? And this is again the worst of worst. So that's kind of how that would look in terms of the pay per call. That pay per call, has everything that we need in order to run your outreach. Obviously, leads, all of that stuff. We don't charge you that in the monthly fee. That comes out of our pocket, right? Or at least out of the pocket for the calls. So that's kind of how the outreach would look.
Yep. That makes a lot of
Okay.
sense. Yep.
All right. So does everything make sense? All the numbers add up?
Yep. Yep. That all
Okay.
makes a lot of sense. I just emailed you, or sorry, I chatted through a couple emails.
Mm-hmm.
So for the details and contract and whatnot, if you could just please email through to those two, that'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Do you want like you want to sign it and also your partner?
So it'll be who would be the signer, and I'll just spell that name out real quick. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then all I need from you is just full name, company name, or I have the full name now, but company address and email address, and I have that as well. So all I need from you is just is the company name, the legal company name also Mariah?
Yeah. It's Raya LLC. I'll just quickly the company address. I always forget this. One sec. It's just a PO box since we're remote now.
By the way, if you don't mind me asking, like, what's your role at the company?
So I've been kind of SEO manager for
Mhm.
most of the time, and I've just now transitioned more into trying to do more of the sales marketing. But to be honest with you, it's a relatively
Mm-hmm.
new thing for me, like actually doing outbound
Mm-hmm.
and those types of campaigns. I don't have a lot of personal experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been more like building the proposals and coming up with the strategy and hopping on the calls. Um, but yeah, definitely not a sales expert by any means,
I see what you're saying.
obviously.
And when I was making like the video for you, obviously I showed you how I got your contact information. And just out of curiosity, I saw you used to be a coach. How did you end up going from being a coach to, working in an SEO agency? It's a very big change.
Yeah, well, it was I used to do sports coaching, golf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I played college. The reason I originally moved to the US is I played college golf at Boise State University.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I finished playing, I became an assistant coach there for a year to help pay for the rest of my school and still travel around and stuff. So
Oh,
that's really all that was. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Because typically when we work with people, I'll look at their LinkedIn and they have like a bunch of marketing related stuff. But for you, I was like, coach, I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've been fortunate where I've been working with Rayo for since 2012, a long time. We've been a lot of sort of different things, worked with a lot of different companies since then. But last 5 years or so is really when we've centered more in the SaaS space.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. That makes sense. For the
uh,
address, did you send that? Because I don't see it in the chat.
there it is, right there.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So that's interesting. And then there's other people involved in the business, right? Are you like a equity founder?
Yeah, so I don't own the business. I am a co-founder. Me and yeah, I just get incentives based on company performance is really how it works for me. Yeah,
Mm, I got you. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
yeah,
So here, I'm about to send it over to you guys. To That's the person who's on the company, and then I'm gonna
yeah.
also forward it so you have it. Let me and sorry, just it's telling me that Jared's email isn't valid, but it does it sometimes. You know how technology is. Maybe you guys should do some SEO for the guys who send our contracts out so they can afford to hire some more developers and fix their software.
That's it.
That's gonna be the
Who
aim
do you
for the
guys use for your contracts and stuff?
Could you imagine we said that in the emails? We're just like, hey, so you had a bunch of bad G2 reviews. How about instead of you guys ripping off your customers, you got hire some new developers with the new money that we're gonna make you. You never know. That might be a very interesting angle.
Yeah, you'd have to appreciate it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine how the responses. People already, you'd be surprised if people respond to our emails. We're calling the police. You're gonna go to prison.
Oh, really?
Oh, you'd be
All right.
surprised. People, for some reason, when we send them cold emails, they treat us like we're like absolute criminals. Like sending an email is like a federal crime.
Mm.
So yeah, here I'm gonna add CC. I'm gonna put in your email now. And by the way, you guys use Slack, right, internally?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how we communicate with each other, right? We have a company Slack. You guys see everything in there. Just to give you guys a little bit of like what to expect when the agreement is signed, we use PandaDoc. Are you familiar?
Yep.
Right? So basically, the contract and the invoice is all connected. Once you sign that, you're going to get an email from our CRM that's going to ask you to fill out an onboarding form. That onboarding form is going to give us all of the information we need to do the onboarding call. It's going to be very niche specific stuff like industry jargon, specific keywords, stuff like that, right? You'll just see in the form. Once we have all of that information, you're going to be asked to book an onboarding call. When you book the onboarding call, that's going to be where you meet my partner Tyler. Up until then, there's nothing to do, right? Obviously, like as before we do the onboarding call, there's not really much that we really can do. But once you guys book that in, we have the onboarding call, we have everything that we need. we're going to go buy the domains, buy the emails. Before we purchase anything, we confirm with you guys. Nothing is done without your confirmation, meaning like you don't have to worry about like human mistake or something because you have to give us a confirmation on everything. Once we have the confirmation, once we have everything, we buy the domains. It's going to take 2 weeks to warm them up. This isn't like something that just our agency does. This is an industry standard for cold email. It takes 2 weeks to warm up the emails. In that 2 week period, we're going to set up the scripts, get the leads, like everything is done. And when those emails are fully warmed up, we're launching the cold emails right from, the 15th day, which is going to be right after the 2 weeks are done. You're going to start seeing the messages come in the Slack. We're going to have notifications for whenever we book a meeting or whenever we get a request for an asset, depending on what we end up deciding you guys want to do, whether it's personalized assets or whether it's not personalized assets. You and Tyler will discuss that. Depending on what you discuss, the automation will be different. If it's going to be a personalized asset, then are you familiar with Trello?
Yep.
Right. So we have like a Trello setup where you'll have all of like the to-dos. As soon as it's done, you're going to move it. Our automation sends it off to the client or to the prospect. The prospect books in, you guys have it. After you have the call and after, we figure out whether it's qualified or not, then we tally it. At the end of the month, we send you an invoice for the calls that we deem qualified, and we go from there. So that's kind of how the flow of everything works. Just out of curiosity, I sent over the contract. You discussed everything with your partner. Do you think this is something that we're going to get started right away?
Yes, I would believe so. Next, probably a March kickoff. Yeah.
You said you want to get kicked off in March?
Yeah, I'd say that'd probably be the time frame. I just need to confirm with. I think it's more of a we want to get going as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm. So then that's perfect. So if we have the contract signed today or tomorrow, whenever you guys have time, that'll be right around March. So when everything's set up, because we have to have the emails warm up and everything, then around March is when we're gonna be able to get everything up and running. Does that sort of sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll make sure I'll ping Jared now and just let him know that came through so he's aware. And I'll also send him this recording too, just so he has a chance to have a look at it as well. And then I'll definitely reach out if anything pops up. But if not, then should see the signing come through.
Okay. I appreciate your time. It was a very good call. I'm very excited to start working with you guys. As soon as we see that come through, you'll get the form, you get the Calendly link. Obviously, you'll meet my partner, Tyler. I already told him about you guys, already briefed him on the call, so he'll be familiar with everything, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks a lot. I appreciate your time.
Of course. You have a good day. Bye-bye.
Okay, you too.
Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the Loom video and the sales call, right? I'm sure you guys understand what sort of the presentation is, what the sales process looks like. But now let me show you our entire sequence, everything that's left in the actual email, because some of our prospects that we ended up getting in contact with and other clients that we ended up signing from this campaign didn't all respond on the first email, and there were other emails. Now, our setup was pretty simple. We had a 3-step email sequence, ABC test on the opener. By the opener, I mean the first email. Then the other two are just basic follow-ups, and the one below was our best performing script. For those of you wondering why we do 3-step sequences, we've found out that pretty much 99% of our responses end up coming from the first 3 emails. So there isn't really a point of doing a 5-step sequence. That's just really the honest truth. We didn't end up split testing anything for the follow-ups just because, right, we already know these follow-ups work. It's kind of like a template we use for that. Really, the most important email is going to be the opener, okay? So that's kind of how that looks. Now, as you can see, the first thing you guys are going to think is, wow, those emails are so long. This is actually just a lot of spin tags, right? As you can see, hi, hey, howdy, hello, scrolling through, using, taking a look, browsing, right? There's a lot of different spin tags. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with spin tags stands for spinning syntax, and spinning syntax is like a format you can use on most cold email sending tools, which allows you to have several variations of the same email in order to ensure your deliverability stays good. Because if you're sending the same email over and over and over, and only a certain variable is changing, your ESP is going to find out that you're abusing their service and therefore start lowering your deliverability score. So that's the reason the email looks so long. Okay. Now here's the second follow-up. Right. This is the second follow-up. This is after 2 days of the initial email. We reference a case study in here. This did really well. So, this is a very, very interesting thing. We basically say along the lines of, hey, I just wanted to mention the exact same video that I offered to you ended up booking in 8 qualified meetings in just 2 weeks for one of our clients, which is going to go on to make them $80,000, and you didn't even say yes to my video. And obviously you guys can imagine when someone reads that, they're going to be like, wow, like I'm missing out. Let me go say yes to this video because it's free and they have nothing to lose. Okay, so that's kind of the value proposition. And then the third follow-up is just, it's like a detective emoji and a ninja emoji. This is just something that, it's kind of like a pattern interrupt for those of you who have been on like money Twitter and sort of that environment. You guys know that a lot of people do this. They'll just send like an emoji, which is just people aren't used to seeing it, and that's why they call it a pattern interrupt. And this actually did pretty well for us. Okay, so that's about it, right? That's the full sequence, right? Let's move on. Now, here are some things that you need to keep in mind, because even though that I just showed you, the campaign and everything might seem simple. Oh, this guy just threw together some simple scripts, right? The biggest part of launching this campaign was actually getting the segmentation and the lead lists on working, because ultimately the only reason it worked is because we were able to do such relevant outreach. Because imagine when everybody else is cold emailing people and they're saying that, hey, saw you're an agency, just straight up, I saw you're an agency, versus what we're doing, hey, I saw you were an SEO agency specifically on clutch.co, right? It's very, very different. It's coming off as a real outreach, right? So that's why this works. And I want to tell you guys a little bit about how the lists are working. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go over how I built the list for this particular campaign because, I've done it so many times before. But I have had several videos where we talk about stuff like this, right? This one is specifically list building, the entire blueprint. I have a way where I have show you the 22 most common databases we use in our agency, right? With collectively over 1.76 billion leads. So that's another one. And then I also have a video on how to scrape Apollo, right? This is literally completely free, right? When Apollo costs thousands of dollars. So that's another video you guys should take a look at. And I mean, that pretty much sums up on my content on lead list building. But again, if that is something you're interested in, take a look. It's going to be in this document. It's going to be in the description. So take a look. But right before you guys go, I do want to mention one thing. If you just want the results just like this without doing any of the work, like any of the hassle, then that is something we actually offer at our lead generation agency. If you just want, paper qualified call clients, meaning you are only paying when we put you on the phone with a prospect that shows up, is a decision maker, wants your service, and fits your criteria for being qualified, whether it's a revenue range or a headcount or some sort of technology or a certain country of operation, whatever it might be, we will do it. Okay. Right? We are going to deliver qualified meetings right into your calendar, and you're only going to pay us when we actually do it. Okay. So if going and increasing your current acquisition is something that you're interested in, you can book a call below. All we're going to do is we're going to have an outbound audit, right? It's going to be similar to what we had on the sales call that I showed you guys earlier, where we discuss your business. We're going to discuss what you're currently doing. We're going to discuss some ideas, just sort of discuss what we could potentially do together. And if everything makes sense, we'll make you an offer. If not, then you get 20 minutes of free advice. So either way, it's a win-win. But with that being said, I'm going to have this link to book a call, first link in the description, as well as the document. So whatever's easier for you guys, you can do that. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching and take care. Bye-bye.